Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for the new screensavers is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com. It's time for Twit's annual audience survey, and we want to hear from you. Please visit twit.tv/survey and let us know what you think. It only takes a few minutes, and your anonymous feedback will help us make Twit even better. We thank you so much for your continued support. twit.tv/survey. The new Screensavers is brought to you by IT Pro TV. Upgrade your brain for 2016. IT Pro TV is the resource to keep your IT skills up to date with engaging and informative video tutorials. For a free 7-day trial and 30% off the life of your account, go to itpro.tv/NSS and use the code NSS30. And by Squarespace. Squarespace is the simplest way to create a beautiful website or cover page for your portfolio, your business, or your online store. Enter the offer code NSS and get 10% off. Squarespace, you should. And by Blue Apron. Blue Apron will send you all the ingredients to cook fresh, delicious meals with simple step-by-step instructions right to your door. See what's on the menu this week and get your first 2 meals free by going to blueapron.com/twit. That's blueapron.com/twit.
Apple versus the feds, a mother of a motherboard, and artificial intelligence takes on telemarketers. Live from the Twit Brick House in beautiful downtown Petaluma, it's the new Screensavers.
I'm Leo Laporte.
I am Megan Maroney.
My former Screensavers co-host.
Yes,
and now,
the old Screensavers.
The old Screensavers. And now you're, of course, the host of iOS Today with me and of Tech News Today every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific.
With Jason Howell.
7 p.m. Eastern. 2,400 UTC.
Yeah.
If I say one time, I have to say them all.
You can get it whenever you want. Whatever
true.
time you want to watch it, you can download it.
That's the beauty of podcasting. People often say to us, why don't you start your shows on time? What do you mean on time? You can watch it whenever you want.
We started on time today.
We did.
Yeah.
And are you here? No, they're not even here yet. They know they figure we won't start for another half an hour. Episode 41. Although I'm going to start making the case for this really being episode 2,444 because we did 2,403 episodes of the old Screensavers. Not we. I can't say we because I wasn't on all of them.
No, neither was I.
Somebody did. And so you add 41 to that. This is February 20th, 2016. And we got a big show. I mean, this is an amazing show. In just a moment, we're going to talk about what I think is not only the biggest story of the week and the month, but probably will end up being the biggest story of the year, the Apple versus the U.S. government story. We're going to continue building our ultimate VR gaming machine. This probably is the most important component, the motherboard, and it's amazing how far we've come in motherboards. I haven't built a computer in a long time, and man, these new motherboards are amazing. We'll talk about it with Ryan Shrout. If you hate telemarketers, you're going to love this segment. And are you going to play the telemarketer?
Maybe we both will. Who knows?
We could gang up.
Yes, gang up. We tried it before the show, and I think, I can come up with some things.
This is an artificial intelligence, a bot, if you will, that is designed very cleverly to drive telemarketers insane. Sure, you could just hang up on them, but wouldn't it be more fun to torture them?
It gives you empathy for telemarketers.
Actually,
as well.
it does.
I feel sorry for them now.
Padre was at the Developer Week Hackathon in San Francisco. He's going to have a recap, and we're going to answer questions. But let's start with the big story, because I don't think there is a bigger story right now in tech news.
This is going to have echoes for decades. I mean, this is really important.
It could be, absolutely could impact us forever. As you know, when Apple first created the iPhone, it was possible for them to get the information off. Sometimes law enforcement had a hard time. They would go to Apple, presumably with a court order saying, give us the information on the phone. Apple had done this for roughly 70 phones over the years, and I think they tired of it. The queue was long. It took them a while to do it.
It was frustrating. Sometimes federal, like law enforcement, would come with an iPhone and say, unlock this, and the iPhone didn't even have a password on it.
There was
like they didn't. They just, all you have to do is swipe. Like
yeah.
that. It could be frustrating.
Swipe.
To have to deal with that all the time.
So I think Apple, partly in response to this, but partly because they want to be known as a privacy company, starting with iOS 8, by default encrypted the contents of the iPhone. They've also done some things to protect your data. They had a 4-digit passcode. They've made that a 6-digit passcode. And as you know, for many of us, the fingerprint reader is even more secure way of locking it. And with the passcode anyway, there's a feature you can turn on that after 10 failed attempts, the phone will erase itself. All designed to protect your, in some ways, most intimate of computers. I mean, this is the one where everything is on it, from prying eyes. On the other hand, the feds with a warrant say, well, we can search your home. We can search your intimate dwelling. Why can't we search your phone? So apparently, one of the San Bernardino shooter's phones was recovered by the FBI. It was actually not a phone he owned. It was a phone owned by his employer, the San Bernardino County Health Department. The health department said to the FBI, no problem. Anything that's on their phone, we have ownership of the phone. The employee signed a right to, agreement to allow us to monitor, so it's all yours. Something happened during the chain of custody that we're not sure about. We're going to talk about that. And the FBI was not able to get in the phone. After several months trying, they finally said, let's go to Apple. And they got a court just this week to order Apple to help them decrypt the phone. Now, what Apple's being asked to do is not actually to take the phone and give them unencrypted contents, but just to remove some of the protections on the phone. For instance, to put new firmware on the phone that would turn off that wipe it after 10 tries. Mm-hmm. There's also a delay, a very short delay, but a sufficient delay between passcode entries to slow down any automated procedure. With a 4-digit passcode, that's 10,000 possibilities. With a 6-digit passcode, it's even more. So taking out the delay would allow the FBI to use some sort of automated software to brute force that passcode and get into it. Apple, when receiving this court order, Tim Cook published a letter on the website, an open letter to the public saying there ought to be public discussion of this. We don't want to do this. We don't think we should do this. We think, in fact, this is a far-reaching request that would set a precedent that would put us once again in the position of handing over your data to law enforcement. I should point out, it's not just U.S. law enforcement, because Apple does business all over the world. Mm-hmm. Once it's known that they can do this, there's nothing to stop the Chinese government, the Russian government, any government from asking them for information.
And they're all watching this. They're all watching to see what's going to happen.
Absolutely. On the one hand, we want a secure country. We want to thwart terrorism, and we want to give law enforcement the tools they need to thwart terrorism. But on the other hand, we also want and deserve privacy. Mm-hmm. And it is a Fourth Amendment right, the right against unreasonable search and seizure. It's a tough one. We thought we'd get some help on this. If you watch This Week in Google on Wednesday, Steve Gibson came in. He talked a little bit about the technical issues of this. We debated it back and forth with Jeff Jarvis and Matthew Ingram. Joining us right now from the Cato Institute, Julian Sanchez. He's a senior fellow at the Cato Institute and wrote what I thought was a very good piece in Time magazine dissecting this. But since you wrote that piece a couple of days ago, the story continues. Julian, welcome to the New Screensavers.
Thanks for having me.
Did the summary I just gave, is that fairly up to date of the situation?
Yeah, I think so. The latest disclosure, I suppose, is that there were mechanisms for trying to retrieve the data that Apple had suggested to the Bureau. That is to say, look, can you get it on a trusted Wi-Fi network, and maybe the backup to the iCloud is still active. It just hasn't been connecting, and you may be able to get something additional that way. It turned out that the county, which is to say the employer of Saeed Farouk,
and the owner of the phone,
technically the owner of the phone, had, at the behest of the FBI, changed the iCloud password, the Apple ID used to access that, which is, among other things, had the effect of shutting down automatic backups. It also seems as though they may have powered down the phone at some point, which would have taken off the table a number of additional potential attacks that could be carried out without Apple's assistance. So at least in part, if it's the case that Apple is now uniquely positioned to help them retrieve data, it may be because other alternatives, that just errors in the earlier phases of the investigation, closed off.
Maybe I'm giving the FBI too much credit, but I think it's pretty well known that if you have a suspect's phone, it's still turned on and unlocked, that you keep it powered up and unlocked. You put it in a Faraday bag if you need to keep it from communicating with the outside world. But there are well-known procedures for getting the data off of these phones. It sounds like the FBI did everything it could to thwart those procedures, and it leads me to think that the FBI may have been looking for an opportunity to bring this case to a court and get a precedent, because they'd like this to happen all the time.
Well, so I think as to whether they sort of dropped the ball intentionally, I think I just never explained through malice what ineptitude can adequately account for.
True.
In most cases, that's enough. But I do think you're absolutely right that this is an instance where the Bureau is much more interested in the precedent they can set here than in the evidence that they can get on the phone. This was his work phone that he had to know was sort of potentially subject to monitoring. It was not one of the phones that he destroyed physically prior to going on his rampage. So, you understand why they want to cross all the T's and dot all the I's, but the idea that there's essential evidence on the phone is pretty dubious. Whereas we know that Apple had requested, that at least initially, that they file this request in private so they could sort of consider it, just to say under seal, in a way that would be less likely to generate a kind of binding precedent for other courts to follow. And the Bureau, I think, in a move that seems sort of deliberately tailored to antagonize Apple, chose not to file the motion under seal to compel. And I think the reason for that is that this phone is itself sort of a sideshow. There would not really be dangerous to privacy in general if on these sort of older phones they chose in a couple of cases to unlock. What I think really worries people is a precedent that says under the All Writs Act, this sort of catch-all legislation from 1789 that lets courts issue orders, that a technology company can be forced to write software for the FBI, investigative forensic software, effectively spyware or hacking tools, and then sign that software with their developer key. If that precedent is established, that is something in general the FBI can compel a company to do to aid in an investigation, you're opening the door not just to smartphone exploitation, but really I think undermining kind of the fundamental infrastructure of trust that we depend on when we bring phones and computers into our homes and are going to be relying on a great deal more as the sort of Internet of Things dawns. If you can get a company to write signed malware, essentially, you're talking about giving them the keys to any laptop or device that's running software with sort of root privileges that is on that machine. So then we're talking about remote activation of microphones or web cameras, if that's the easiest way to conduct surveillance on a target. Your toaster, for God's sake, or your smart TV, which is has voice control capabilities. And so I think looking to that was what caused Apple to be much more anxious. And also in the nearer term, just institutionally, we know there are hundreds upon hundreds of phones around the country that various police departments would love to get into. And so it's not, as the FBI, I think, rather disingenuously claimed, this sort of one-off request where they can delete whatever tools they're required to build as soon as its function in this one case is exhausted. Rather, it's obvious that lots of district attorneys, lots of police departments are going to have similar requests for their own version of this software or other similar software. And you're effectively going to have to create a kind of sub-institution within Apple, the same way that they have compliance teams dedicated full-time to deal with search warrants or requests for internal records. They're going to effectively have an internal institution dedicated to building code that aims at undermining the same security features other divisions within the company are working to harden. and creating a kind of, I think, untenable situation.
This doesn't surprise me. I mean, I would expect this came directly from Director James Comey, who has been very outspoken in saying we can't do our job because so much of the communications we have been listening to have gone dark thanks to encryption. He is not speaking for the government universally. There are parts of the government, I've been told, including the NSA, who think encryption is an important part of national security, and that good encryption, unbroken, unbackdoored encryption, is necessary. And I also would say that, you know, it's probable that Apple could go and argue, well, Judge, you know, you don't really need this data from this phone. There's nothing on this phone, and maybe even win in court, but that would be kicking the can down the road. It's very clear that the battle is lining up between people like Director Comey and the FBI who want access to all information. They don't want encryption. They want backdoors to all encryption. And private industry and frankly many users who say we should have the right to privacy. But what I think what's important to point out is even if the FBI won in this case, there's no way to stop encryption. The math is known.
Yeah.
The encryption is being made available now in 70 different countries.
Right.
Anybody who is sophisticated enough to know about encryption, and we think ISIS is, we've seen some of the information they have, would be able to find encryption that there is no backdoor. It would only really harm U.S. companies who comply with U.S. law. On the other hand, we also know that Comey and others have said, hey, don't worry about it. We can spy on you in so many ways. The Internet of Things, as you mentioned, is going to make it so we don't really need this encrypted data because your refrigerator will be telling us what you're up to from now on. So I wonder if this is really ultimately that important.
Yeah, you know, so I was actually part of a cybersecurity working group at the Berkman Center at Harvard Law School.
Did you do that Don't Panic paper? Because that was amazing.
I was on that, yeah.
Really, really good.
So it was a group of us that worked together to put out a report on the sort of supposed going dark because of encryption problem. And, you know, we concluded, among other things, that there was such an explosion in sources of data for both intelligence and law enforcement that the loss of the sort of small subset of data that would be rendered irretrievable by encryption was not really representing a kind of net going dark problem, a net diminution of their ability to gather data. And one of the things we highlighted was the Internet of Things and the profusion of sensors we keep on our bodies and in our homes. I've got an Echo over my shoulder there somewhere, probably unwise for someone who writes an essay as much as I do. But we had, I think, different levels of attitudes. This is a group that included some ex-intelligence folks, and so there were perhaps a range of attitudes about how much to welcome this and how much we think the law ought to encourage, certain aspects of this. But I think it is right that in general, there's lots of ways for the FBI and for the NSA to gather information that doesn't require them to break encryption. There are ways to get around that in specific cases.
And if you're a terrorist,
really large-scale
if you're a bad guy, there are plenty of ways to use encryption.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't this
and Bruce Schneier, who's actually one of my colleagues on this working group, also just put out a report on basically the kind of international
that's what I was quoting. That's
source
right.
Of so much software. So there's really, this is a point I've made in the past as well. You can pass whatever backdoor legislation you want tomorrow, but it's not going to uninstall the copy of Ricochet or the copy of GPG that's already sitting on my hard drive. And you can bet, on ISIS's hard drive, and it's not going to pull it off the servers around the world that are already hosting it. It's just unrealistic to expect that at least sophisticated terrorists, maybe not a guy like Saeed Farouk, who doesn't actually seem to have been operating under any kind of elaborate direction from ISIS, but really sophisticated adversaries are not going to be counting on a U.S. company to provide them encryption, and even more so if it becomes clear that that company can be forced to sign code designed to countermand its own security measures.
So I think everything you just said is really exemplified by your T-shirt, which I believe is a 1984
I love
book
that.
cover.
I love that.
So, I mean, isn't this?
Did you put that on purpose, Julian, or is that something you just wear every day?
I just have a rack and it's full of these. And, the other one's Brave New World. Yeah.
So, I mean,
nothing but surveillance dystopia shirts.
Isn't this a perfect example of what you're saying? I mean, because they're, it isn't, they destroyed their other phones. This is their work phone. There's probably nothing on it. They could have gotten it. So why is the government using this as a case where, I mean, to me, it's a good example of what we would get by, what they would get by forcing Apple to create basically a new, a new OS for the phone and a backdoor. What they would get is probably very little, if nothing. So, I mean, isn't that a good example of what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, certainly probably very little at the margin. They've already gotten the iCloud backups from this phone up to about 6 weeks ago, at which point that was the last backup. We're not sure exactly why. And as well as, of course, metadata from the cell providers, as well as messages that he sent on Facebook that seem to have been unencrypted. It's hard to believe that this is really a fight that they're going to the mat on because they think there's something vital on this phone. Now, Apple's not going to win on that. That is to say, Apple is not going to get a judge to back off because Apple doesn't think there's something valuable there. They're going to defer to the FBI if the FBI says they think there might be. But I do think it suggests that this is much more about what an ideal case. When James Comey has talked in the past about the going dark problem, he's tried to advance a series of anecdotes about cases where encryption either did or would have stymied some important investigation, kidnapping or something else sort of emotionally resonant. And very few of those anecdotes have held up very well under scrutiny. And so I think this is an instance where, they're following the advice of the Office of the Director of National Intelligence General Counsel Bob Litt, who in a memorandum this summer that was made it out into the press said, well, it looks like we've sort of lost on this going dark fight for now, but we need to keep our eyes open for a terror attack where we can kind of leverage public sentiment into mobilizing legislation. And I think what they see here is a case where if we can claim that Apple encryption or full device encryption is a problem here, it'll be very difficult politically and in terms of public opinion for the companies to push back, and we can get a precedent we want, or motivate Congress to act if we lose. This is, I think, a kind of Xanatos gambit on their part, where if they win, they get the precedent they want. If they don't win, you have Donald Trump and Ted Cruz and Rubio all denouncing Apple's resistance
Which
here.
Which they have
and,
already, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
From
and I think you motivate an action from Congress, potentially, that they've thus far been unwilling to provide the FBI.
Yeah. It's interesting because Congress has asked both Comey and Cook to testify. I mean, there is a lot of congressional interest in this, but I have to wonder if the FBI this strategy might have backfired, because as much as people are clamoring for Apple to back down, I think far more people, and not just we geeks, but a lot of people who aren't necessarily technically literate, are saying Apple should stand firm. Do you think this is backfired for them?
I think they're getting more pushback than I'd expected. I think they thought that publicly filing the request might put Apple in the position of being sort of too skittish about its public face to resist very hard. But again, I think this is probably something they gamed out pretty well. Even if folks at technology companies and even a lot of the public is sympathizing with Apple. I haven't seen any actual polling data on that, and I, of course, live in a weird Twitter bubble, so I'm not sure how representative the attitudes I'm seeing expressed are. But I think if you look at what members of Congress and political actors are saying, it's much more sympathetic. They're just constitutionally much more inclined and temperamentally to find it sort of outrageous that a company is fighting a request from law enforcement. And again, they picked a case where, there's not really any argument that the FBI shouldn't get the data on this phone if they want it. It's really about the sort of the larger picture that would be the result of creating the precedent they want. But it seems like in terms of the public statements I've seen from members of Congress, for example, that this may have had the effect, even if they, or especially perhaps if they lose in court, of mobilizing legislators who were not necessarily urgently motivated to move forward with some kind of CALEA update or other backdoor legislation to start putting stuff on the table.
Well, the good news is the geeks have been alerted, and Paul Revere has run his ride. Julian Sanchez is a senior fellow at the Cato Institute, former Washington editor at Ars Technica, writer for The Economist's Democracy in America, and founding editor of the Policy blog, a good blog too that I highly recommend on this subject and others, Just Security. I think it's justsecurity.org.
Yep,
yes,
that is us.
Julian, great to talk to you. I hope to talk to you some more in the future.
I look forward to it. Thank you.
Good.
Take
Thank
care.
you so much. It's really a huge story, important story, and we'll continue to follow it. By the way, Ben Thompson will be joining us tomorrow on the new the Twit show. I'm getting confused. On This Week in Tech, Ben has written a very interesting article on his Stratechery blog. We're going to have we'll be talking a lot more about this in future, and of course every day on TNT.
Yeah, I talked to
Monday through
Katie
Friday.
Benner yesterday, and you can watch that episode too. She's been reporting on it as well.
How do you feel? You ready for a call for help?
I think I am ready for a call for help.
Let's continue in this parade of trademark violation with our call for help.
Okay, so my question is, I work for 5 companies that are owned by a 3-person ownership group.
Okay.
I try to keep things the same across all the companies. So what I do is I use Clonezilla and make an image of Windows 7 and
Smart
sysprep
man.
it, so I have to put the product key in every time. With Windows ending the Windows 10 free upgrades in July, I'm wondering, as I start rolling out the Windows 10s with the free upgrades, what happens if I have to re-image that PC after the free upgrade time? I'll need a product code, and you don't get one when you do the upgrades. So I wonder what my options are at that time, if I have to buy it at that point, or if there's a way to recover that. Because free with small companies always makes the IT guy look good. So.
Hey, that's great. That's David, and he recorded that ahead of time, so we're glad we had that. So here's the good news. Microsoft has abandoned this notion of a key to activate Windows. They've moved to something called a Windows entitlement. And this was a big change that happened with this upgrade, this free upgrade to 7 and 8 to Windows 10. You're now activated with an entitlement, and that means not that you're entitled to your copy of Windows 10, but that machine that you upgraded, David, is entitled. So, in other words, no fear. It's exactly as you had hoped, which is even if you lost the hard drive, it got wiped, that particular machine is identified to Microsoft, and we're not sure exactly how, but probably through identifier in the BIOS, perhaps in a combination with its MAC address and other hardware identifiers. Microsoft knows that machine is entitled to Windows 10. And even if you wipe the hard drive, all you have to do is download the Windows 10 ISO from Microsoft, set it up with Clonezilla just as you like it, blast it on. That machine will get online, Microsoft will say, yeah, I know you, and activate it. So entitlement is the new way of activation, and it's good because it's applied to each machine. It also solves a problem Microsoft had, which is that you would get one copy of Windows installed on a bunch of machines with the same serial number. They've tried with Windows Genuine Advantage to turn that off, only one activation per serial number, things like that. This is, I think, a better solution. So the scenario you described works. The only exception is, and I'm going to give you this from winbeta.org, which wrote about this, you will need a product key if you buy a boxed copy of Windows 10, and that key will be on a label inside the packaging, or a digital copy from an authorized retailer, and you'll get an email with a 25-digit character product key. Most businesses will have a volume license agreement. It sounds like you don't use that. You do the consumer version of Windows, which means you'll not fall into that category. So as long as you are using the upgrade on that machine and the upgrade activated, you're golden. Nothing to worry about because you're entitled. It does say if you bought a new device running Windows 10, that you might have a product key there too.
Yeah, that was what I saw too, how to find your Windows 10 product key.
If you buy, this is for the upgrades only, this entitlement, I guess, I gather.
And so, yeah, if you're planning on upgrading to Windows 10 for free, you got to do that before July. So.
Yeah, okay, so that's an interesting question too. So, yeah, Microsoft's been very clear. July 29th, that's when Windows 10 came out. They offered the free upgrade for Windows 7 and 8.1 users, and they said it'll be 1 year only. After that, you'll have to buy your upgrade. Paul Thurrott, Windows Weekly, he's pretty much the expert on Windows, said, yeah, I bet you July 30th, Microsoft says, hey, you know what? This has been such a success, and so many of you love Windows 10. We're going to give it to you for another year.
We got a few laying around
They
here.
wanted there to be some urgency. They wanted people to upgrade.
Right, that's all the windows, the warnings that you got all the time.
They wanted getting people off 7 and 8 as fast as they could. So one way to do that urgency is say, well, and you're only going to have till July 29, and it's going to run out.
This offer won't last forever.
But remember that that's motivated by a desire to get everybody on Windows 10. Well, if you continue to give it away, that's going to help a little bit. So they may do something like, well, okay, we'll do it for one more month, and another month, and another month. I think they might as well just continue to give it away. They're going to make money on the enterprise versions, as they have been. But that way, more people will be activated than ever before.
Right, and if Tim Cook goes to jail, then maybe they'll all have to be on Windows.
That's an interesting question we were talking about before the show. What happens if Apple just says no? They pay a fine and Tim Cook goes to jail? Who goes to jail? The CEO? I guess so.
Yeah.
That would be not a good outcome.
No.
I don't think. All right. Next week, by the way, it's so good to have Megan, but Jason Snell will be here from Six Colors, former editorial director at Macworld magazine.
He's good people.
Good people and knows his Mac. So if you've got a Mac question, here's how you would send your email in for next week.
Need tech help? The new screensavers are here with answers. Email your tech questions to newscreensavers@twit.tv.
Did you ever work as a telemarketer? Did you ever have to...
I never did, but you know, Jason Howell did. When we
Yeah.
were discussing jobs that we'd had in the past and how much
A
we
lot of
loved this
people,
job. He
right.
was a telemarketer. I was
You
not.
come out of high school, you know, my best friend sold aluminum siding for a while. You do what you can. I have another friend who sold Cutco knives for a while. I mean, it's not the best job in the world, but you don't have any skills.
They all get us here, right?
Yeah, and so I think a lot of telemarketers actually are nice kids. They just don't have any skills, and they're stuck doing this, and they're going to hate it for a while, and they'll move on to something else. Hey, I was a fry cook at McDonald's.
I delivered pizza.
There you go. You delivered pizza?
I did, yeah. They only let me do it in the afternoon for safety reasons, but I did, yeah.
You couldn't drive at night. That's so funny. What kind of pizza? Was it good?
It was good pizza, yeah. It was in Houston, Texas.
Oh, that's interesting. You don't have any with you, do you?
No, I don't have any pizza,
Okay,
sorry.
just checking. Coming up in just a bit, we're going to talk about telemarketing. We actually have a man, Roger Anderson. He's the founder of the Jolly Roger telephone bot. And this is so satisfying, because if you've ever been called while you're sitting down at dinner by a telemarketer, you're going to want this Jolly Roger. This is awesome. Make telemarketers crazy. But first, let's talk about our sponsor today, IT Pro TV. I know a lot of you are IT pros, you know, in spirit, if not in name. You can fix a computer, you can get a network up and running. You're probably doing it for your family and friends. Maybe you want to get a job in IT. You know what you need? It's kind of like the Wizard of Oz. You don't have any fewer brains than you or I, but you don't have the one thing that all these smart guys have, a diploma. In this case, a cert. The cert is what tells employers that you've passed the test, you've got the skills, you are able to do that thing, whether it's fix a network, fix a computer, manage an installation of Windows or Macs or PCs. This is what IT Pro TV is so great at. It's helping you get those certs and keeping your skills up to date after you get the job. So many of our viewers have become IT Pro TV subscribers, and it's no wonder. First of all, they make it look kind of like what Twit does. They were very much inspired by Twit, so it's fun to watch. You can watch it as you do Twit on Roku, on your computer. You can watch it even in the air. If you subscribe for a year, you can download the shows. And man, how many shows? Over 1,000 hours of content. 50 hours every week are created because they now have 2 channels. They stream live and on demand worldwide to work with the Chromecast, the Roku, the PC, the mobile device. We're talking A+, CCNA, MCSA. I love this cert, the Certified Ethical Hacker. See how much that looks like us? That's so awesome. That's Don right there. He's a great trainer. Tim and Don were trainers who said, let's do this right. New courses include, in fact, they were doing that this week, Cloud Plus and Active Directory in Azure, Excel 2016, Cisco ASA Express Security. Todd Lamley's doing that. You also get not just the video, not just the courseware, but you get the virtual machine labs that walk you step by step through setting up a server. You don't even have to have a Windows server or Windows clients. All you need is an HTML5 browser. You also get the Transcender practice exams. They're worth $109. And this is all for one low monthly subscription fee, or you can buy by the year. And of course, once you get the cert, no hassle cancellation policy. Even if you're studying with a book or enrolled in a degree program, this is a great way to learn at your own pace and to learn enjoyably. Plus, they've got transcripts you can follow from start to finish. There's so much. There's chat rooms. There's there's study groups. There's so much stuff. Corporate and group pricing is available. They have many clients at the universities, including Harvard and MIT, Stanford. Here's the deal. Go to itpro.tv/NSS. That's our special page. Upgrade your brain with the most popular IT certs. Premium subscriptions, normally $57 a month or $570 a year. But if you use our offer code NSS30, you can try it free for 7 days and get 30% off the lifetime of your account. That makes it $40 a month or even less, $399 when you pay for the year. NSS30, that is a great discount, and you can only get it at itpro.tv/NSS. Use the offer code NSS30 to try it free for 7 days. All right, you ready?
Yes.
This is so awesome.
Okay, so Roger Anderson, you created this bot.
Wait a minute. First of all, why did you create this bot?
Well, you mentioned, just kids calling with telemarketers. I personally get the scammer construction guys. I get a lot of scammer telemarketers. At one point, one of them swore at my son, 12 years old. Yeah, I had just a really aggressive scammer construction telemarketer. So I said, hey, I'm a phone guy. I should be able to fix this. If anybody can fix this, I should be able to fix this. So I put kind of like an email whitelist, right? You call the house, you have to push a button to ring through. Once you do that once, that caller ID is allowed through every time.
Did you write this workflow yourself?
Yeah.
What software do you use? Asterisk or?
It's in Asterisk, correct?
Yeah.
And so my home lines then would go into this. You just punch a button, you ring through.
But not everybody can have an asterisk box in the basement.
Right. That's correct. So,
although I would like to.
Right. Well, and yeah,
I'm tempted.
It's very intrusive.
And I've used online services, Twilio or Anvio. There are lots of services that will kind of let you do this kind of thing.
Yes. Now, what I noticed was every telemarketer stopped. They all use auto dialers. All telemarketers, especially the scammers, they're all using these auto dialers that call hundreds or thousands of phone numbers.
You kind of know because there's a lag between when you pick up the phone and when they start talking. That's because the software is signaling them, oh, we got a live one here.
Hey, we got one. Exactly.
And then they go, okay, hello.
Right. So what I said was, well, what if I just play hello a few times? Right? So what if I answer the phone and just say hello? Just have a recording that says hello?
Yeah.
Hello, right?
Hello.
And sure enough, it cut the auto dialer through. The auto dialer cut to an agent. So that's when I said, okay, let's see how long I can make this one last. And so that's when I created a bot that would then interact with the
drag it out,
see how long I can get them to talk. And sure enough, they got all the way through. Never thought it was a robot. Like until now, what telemarketer ever thinks you're calling a robot, right? When you call a home, right? So it would get all the way through to the end, and that's when I had to add more stuff. So I added some more stuff to it.
What's the longest anybody's gone?
22 minutes. So and the magic is that in that case, the person had transferred it to their authorization department because I had agreed, yeah, I want the best cable package, I want the best phone service, I want the best high-speed internet, I watch all the movies, right? Says, oh great, let me transfer to account verification, and now the robot gets transferred to account verification and went through the entire repertoire again with a new verification team. But she couldn't get a credit card number out of the thing.
No, because
she just tried so hard and she never could. So anyway, that was the longest.
Let's do it.
Okay.
You want to do it?
Yes.
So Roger has set this up. So we're going to be calling your number, and your robot will answer.
Right.
Megan, you want to do the honors?
Sure, yeah. We'll see how I do.
Put your best piece of the...
Oh, hello. I am Megan Maroney, and I'm sure you're busy, but I'm from Future Pants.
Wait, is this a real person?
Yes, this is a real person. I am a real person. Do you have a minute?
Oh, actually, hey, hang on a second. Hey, honey. Yeah? Well, I'm on the phone.
So they got a live one.
Well, we haven't really gotten that far. I'm not sure yet. Sorry. Who? Never mind. Can I talk to you later, honey?
You're good.
Sorry. Okay, I'm back. So, who's this?
Oh,
Sorry,
this is Megan Maroney.
Oh,
no, it's fine. I'm calling from Future Pants. I wanted to offer you some smart pants. Smart pants.
Okay.
Have you heard of smart? Oh, great. We specialize in pants that keep you fully connected. Wouldn't you like that? Would you like that? You would like that? Great. Okay, with our pants, they're always internet ready. So, do you use Facebook?
Mm-hmm.
You do? Okay, great. Do you use Tinder? Do you use Tinder? You do?
Hang on a second.
Oh.
Hang on. There's a bunch going on here. Hang on. Hang on.
A what?
I would be sucked in.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no,
Who's this?
totally
What
fine.
are you calling about again?
I'm calling about smart pants, future pants.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like your future pants to? Would you like to order some?
Oh, geez, hang on. There's a bee on me. Hang on. There's a bee on my arm. Okay, you know what? You keep talking. I'm not going to talk, though, but go ahead and keep talking. Say that part again. And I'm just going to stay quiet because of this bee.
I wanted to sell you some future pants. Future pants? Would you like future pants? They're smart, they're internet connected, they're fast, they're stylish. You can get them in any color. Just wondering if I could sign you up. Can I sign you up?
Mm-hmm.
This is where he said yes.
Yes, okay, great. Great. All right, I just need a credit card number then.
It's totally crawling up my arm. It's crawling on my arm. It's freaking me out.
I love
But
that this
it's
is
not
your
mad.
voice.
I guess it's okay. Anyway, so sorry. You keep talking. Go ahead. Keep
Okay,
talking.
we want to sign you up for a monthly supply of pants. 2 pairs of smart pants every month.
Sure.
Okay, it's gone. Hey, okay, so you know when I said I was listening to you during the bee thing? Actually, I was just concentrating on the bee. I'm sorry. So can you start over? What were you saying during the bee?
Yes, I can start over. Smart pants. You want to try, Leo?
Yeah, let me try. I'm sorry. This is her manager. Hello? Who am I speaking to? Is this Roger? Am I talking to Roger? Hello?
You know, I was having trouble concentrating because you sound exactly like somebody I went to high school with. So sorry. Say that part again.
I'm calling from Future Pants.
Okay.
And you said you'd be interested in a pair?
Mm-hmm.
Great. So all I need is a credit card.
Okay, so I just woke up from a nap. I'm still kind of groggy, and I took some medicine that doesn't help. So
I'm
you
sorry.
know that feeling when you just wake up, you need a couple minutes to think and figure out what's going on?
Right.
Maybe get some coffee. Do you drink coffee?
I do.
Hey, honey, is there any coffee left? So hang on. I haven't had a chance to really wake up all the way. So can you just go a little slower? Who's this?
I'm sorry. This is Leo from Future Pants. And we're talking, we specialize in pants that keep you fully connected. And we know that you're on Facebook. Do you use Instagram? So with Future Pants, you're not going to miss another friend's baby picture. You'll swipe right or cats of Instagram. Does that sound good to you?
Right. Hello?
Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Well, wonderful. So we'd like to sign you up for a monthly supply of pants, 2 new pants every month. All I need is your credit card and your mailing address.
Sure.
So what would
Oh,
that...
geez, hang on. There's a bee on me. Hang on. There's a bee on my arm.
Oh, we're looping now.
Wait.
We're looping now. That's
So-
right. Now, who would have ever gone all the way through this, right? I
No.
never thought anyone would ever get through it all the way.
What
and people
happens
do.
when people give up? They get angry?
You know, it's funny that you can actually hear someone's mind being blown
Yeah.
So you can listen to
with
it.
the silence.
Well,
right?
I would be thinking, this guy's the biggest idiot I've ever talked to, but that means I'm going to make a bigger sale.
Yeah.
Well, and the longer you go through the call, the more invested you as a
Yeah.
telemarketer. If you're talking to somebody for 4 minutes, you're just going to keep talking, right? Obviously this.
I
person's
got him on the
interested,
hook.
right?
He's
Yeah,
listening.
right. And so, yeah, sometimes when you get to the end and then there's just that silence for 4 or 5 seconds, and then you realize, oh, I'm talking
You're
to a robot.
robocalling
I'm
him.
talking to a robot.
Right
What?
back.
This is crazy.
So tell me how you did this. Is it program? Is it Python? How did you write this?
So it's a program. It's Perl. It's written in
Perl.
Perl. And yeah, it's in asterisk, and it listens to noise and silence and tone
So
and inflection.
Is there some way I can get this on my house?
Yes. So right now, it's a phone number that you can conference in. Right now. It's just
So I say, let me get
number.
my
Yeah.
husband on the line because he's the guy who buys pants in the family.
Right.
And then you
You
conference
add
in the
this
phone
call.
number.
Right.
What's the
Right.
phone number?
Well, it's
Is it going to cost a lot of money for you?
Well, I do have a Kickstarter in place right now to try to recoup some of these funds.
Oh, good.
Yes, it's costing a lot of money for me. I had no idea it was going to be this big, right? You know, it was a hobby. I created a phone number.
Everybody must go to Kickstarter.com and look for Jolly Roger.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
And you see, women, go back because you're making money. You got $10,000, but you're going for 46.
Yeah.
But there's only 9 days left. So, folks, we need this. We need this right now. So I need you to go right now to Kickstarter.com.
Well, and this is fun. It's entertaining. The bigger picture is this breaks the auto dialer.
It does.
Right? The scammer auto dialers that set up overseas and dial 10, 50,000 phone numbers in a day, and they don't care. They don't honor the request to be taken off the list.
They're not even in this country.
They just call. They call thousands and thousands of numbers.
Horrible.
If we can get more robots answering the phone, that auto dialer model breaks.
So this is actually easy. I don't have to install any software or do anything. I just conference you in.
Correct.
That's nice. And the fun begins.
And the fun begins.
And you get to, and I get to listen in. I mute my microphone and I just put it on speakerphone and I
now
continue.
later on, there's no reason why this can't be your voicemail as well, right?
Right.
So if you don't want to answer the phone or you just know that's a telemarketer, just let it go to voicemail.
Yeah.
The bot will either take a call for you and take a message, or it will talk to the telemarketer. Either way, you'll get a recording.
If I were a venture capitalist, an angel investor, I'd be on the phone to you right now.
Oh,
Let me call. Hello, Roger. This is Leo Laporte. I'd like to invest money in Jolly Roger Telephone Company. Are you there?
Thank goodness. That's
Hello?
different call,
Yes, he said
hopefully.
yes. He said yes. I'll take it all.
Yes, no question.
I can write you a check right now. All you have to do is give me your address. See, it works both ways, doesn't it?
Oh, no. Come on, robot, answer the question.
That is so cool. How much of a script is? I mean, it's not sequential. Is it kind of random? Or?
It's randomized, and it depending on how much pitch, because telemarketers, they pitch. They like to pitch, right? And so it can go a long time depending on how much the telemarketer is talking. When the telemarketer stops talking, the goal is for this robot to get them re-engaged, right?
Right.
So
with the
goal.
bee, with the wife, with the coffee.
Right. Right.
I like that. You've actually got a lot of psychology going on in here. You clearly.
This one, yeah, he's just a little bit, kind of out of it, right? And the fact that he woke up from a nap and took some medicine, that buys a little bit
Explains
of forgiveness.
it.
Yeah, that whole thing.
Very
That
even-keeled.
people are more likely to stay on the line and keep talking. It just kind of worked out just the
Have
right
you been
combination.
refining this over time? I mean,
I have, yeah.
So great.
Yeah, a lot of tweaking.
Oh my!
Is this your first
God.
acting job, or have you been?
Yeah, no, I'm not an actor. See, I'm not a funny guy, so
You're
I
a
built a
phone guy,
robot.
you
I
said.
built a robot to do this,
Yeah.
right? So this way I don't have to.
Can I give out the number?
Please.
You don't mind?
No,
Is that
not
the
at all.
number?
But do me a favor, if you do this, go in and kick in a little money on the Kickstarter. 214-666, because you're kind of devilish. 4321. Oh, you got a special number. 214-666-4321. The next time somebody calls, conference in Jolly Roger.
Thank you.
I love it. And I hope you raise a ton of money. So if you raise money, what's the next step?
The goal is to provide enough robots in different voices, male and female, right? And then also there's been a tremendous interest overseas. Australia, I've been on...
I saw you're in the UK now.
UK, Australia,
Apparently they
New
have
Zealand.
similar problems.
It's worldwide. It's worldwide, and everyone hates telemarketers. Who knew?
Do you have it in different accents?
Currently, I've got one voice, but yes, I would like to.
Hello, mate.
I would like to do different accents and different, and even different languages. There's no reason it won't work as long as there are cultural matches in other languages as well. It's when you think about it, it's even funnier to think that people are talking for 8 to 10 minutes and the thing doesn't even know what you're saying, right? Doesn't understand a word of it.
Right.
So,
It's wasted.
Yep.
Right over its head.
Yep.
Thank you, Roger. Roger Anderson, the founder of the Jolly Roger Telephone Company. And you can go to Kickstarter.com and search for Jolly Roger. Kick in a little money. I'm going to do that because I think this is great. And you can, without paying for it, use it at 214-666-4321. So the next time a telemarketer calls, conference in Jolly Roger.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
Gee, is that brilliant? And somebody in the chat room said you got to listen to the recordings on the Kickstarter because they're really funny.
Right. I have a YouTube channel with several of the funnier
it's on
calls
YouTube.
posted. Yeah,
Oh,
there's
nice.
also a YouTube channel on that. Yeah.
Very nice. Is it Jolly Roger? Is that the YouTube channel?
The YouTube channel is, you as a tech guy probably have an easier way to do this. My URL for a YouTube channel is more complicated. I don't know, there's probably a way to make a vanity YouTube channel.
Is it called More Complicated? Because that would
It's
be a
very
great,
complicated.
That would be a great name for a
Something-
YouTube
yeah.
channel.
Yeah.
Way too complicated to spell out.
Yeah.
Well, go to Jolly Roger on Kickstarter. That's
Thank you.
Easier. Roger, nice to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Coming up, we're going to talk about the motherboard in our ultimate VR gaming machine. We are building a beast, just in time, I hope, for the Oculus Rift headset. Meanwhile, though, I want to talk about Squarespace. Squarespace. I just set up my website at Squarespace. I wish we'd set up our website at Squarespace, actually, now that I think of it, because you can't bring a Squarespace site down. It's the best hosting integrated with the best software, and that's one of the reasons it's such a robust connection. You don't have to worry about security; they keep it up to date. You don't have to when you don't have to worry about success. You know, some websites you don't want a lot of people to hit it because, oh no, what am I going to do? With the Squarespace site, the software is so smart; it spins up more instances, it adds more bandwidth. That's why you cannot bring a Squarespace site down. Let's do an experiment. Everybody go to my Squarespace site, leoville.com. Go there right now. You see what I did? I used the cover page, so there's a slideshow on there. And then my blog is there, my calendar is there, my photo albums are there. It's great for a band. See, if you're a photographer, you could put your pictures up on the site and then use the Squarespace Portfolio app. There's some great iOS apps. The Portfolio app on iPad pulls your pictures off the site so the client can review them. If you're a band, you could put band tour dates on there. You can sell, because every Squarespace site has e-commerce built in, so you can sell your digital albums, you can sell your CDs. They will help you. In fact, they have two different levels of online commerce. So you have the regular level and the pro level. If you want to go, all in on this, make a great online storefront. It's the only service I know where the online storefront looks like the rest of the site. You don't get shunted off to some dumb cart. It's all integrated in, beautiful. Whether you're a designer, a photographer, a filmmaker, a writer, musician, freelancer, blogger, the Jolly Roger telephone company, Squarespace has a site designed just for you. And of course, if you want to get geeky, the sky's the limit. You can do anything you want. You don't have to be a geek to do it, but if you want to, you can configure every darn bit of it. There's even a developer platform. So here's the deal. You can go there right now and try it for free, squarespace.com. Just click the start button. But when you decide to use our offer code NSS, that'll get you 10% off. And of course, show your support for the new screensavers. So it's squarespace.com. Try it free, and don't forget the offer code NSS for 10% off. Earlier in the week, I sat down with Ryan Shroud of PC Perspective, and of course our own show, This Week in Computer Hardware, to build yet another piece of the ultimate VR gaming machine. We added the motherboard. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to continue our quest for the ultimate VR gaming machine. I am so excited about this particular part because there's something about motherboards. Squishy in our chat room says, I love the motherboard. Ryan Shroud is here. He is our guide as we build the ultimate VR gaming machine from PC Perspective, PCPer.com, and This Week in Computer Hardware. Hello, Ryan.
How are you doing?
I feel good, and I'm excited. Now, last week we chose this processor, the i7, but in particular, Intel i7, not the heavy-duty 8-core, just a 4-core processor because it can go faster. This is the i7 6700K. Right. There we go. And it's unlocked. That's the K, which is good. Mm-hmm. Right now it's 4 gigahertz, right? But it could go even faster.
Right. Yeah, its base clock is 4 gigahertz.
Okay. But of course, a processor is nothing out with that. The motherboard, and as we spoke about last week, we're kind of choosing the platform here. So we've chosen Skylake. That means we get a Skylake motherboard, right?
Correct. Right. So the chipset that goes along with this is the Z170 chipset. Intel always releases, or usually releases, rather, I should say, a new chipset with a new processor. There are a couple of exceptions. Will update a new processor without necessarily needing a new chipset. This is a new chipset to go along with it, and with that became, a dozen motherboards from every manufacturer, every vendor you can think of, with all ranges of prices and options as you kind of normally expect motherboards to do these days.
Now, as you mentioned, there are lots of motherboard manufacturers, and Intel, of course, makes its own motherboards. But
actually, they stopped that.
Did they? They don't make motherboards anymore?
For consumers, they closed
make
down
them
their
for Dell. Like
division.
Dell will use an Intel motherboard, but you can't
especially
buy them.
like in server platforms and enterprise platforms. They'll do that, but they kind of gave up on the consumer side. And
I've always bought ASUS motherboards. This actually takes me back. My ASUS motherboard to back to the Celeron days when we bought Asus to overclock our Celeron. So they still make good motherboards.
They still make excellent motherboards, and having a very good relationship with all of these companies out there. One of the things that Asus does that I really appreciate is they spend a lot of time on the software side. You know, it used to be when you would go into the BIOS, there was poorly translated, from Chinese into English. There were no descriptions. There was no information about what you were actually changing or setting.
The BIOS is made by whom?
It's built by Asus, right? So they get a base code from Intel.
The AMI, the days of the AMI or the Phoenix BIOS, those days are gone, huh?
Yep.
Why did you choose this particular motherboard?
So this is actually one of the first motherboards that came out with the Skylake platform. It's the Asus Z170 Deluxe, and it's interesting in that it offers a ton of features both on the board, and it comes with a lot in the box that I think can be pretty useful, right? So, of course, you have support for all the processors. You have 4 DIMM slots. They support up to DDR4 3.7 gigahertz memory, which is really rare and really expensive if you were to actually buy stuff that could go that fast, but it's nice to have that flexibility.
Look at all this stuff in here. What is all this stuff?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there. Like you have, they give you a couple of accessories.
The back plane for your case, if your case doesn't have one. The case is typically.
Well, you have to.
I guess you have to use because this is the layout of the motherboard, right?
Right.
What is this? This is what is that? CPU cooler?
So that's an antenna, I think, for 80, because this board comes with 802.11 AC, dual band Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth 4.0.
Yeah, that's what this is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an impressive speed add on there. And
this is external. This will plug in outside, which is nice because you can move it around to get better reception.
Yep.
Wow,
and even if you plug in your system to a hardwired internet connection, which obviously we almost always would recommend,
right?
You can actually use that in their software to set it up as a hotspot, right? So you can make it an access point as well using that 802.11 AC device.
This is a hyper kit. What's that do?
So that is a device. So on the end that you're holding up to the top there with the gold connections, that is an M.2 connection. And then the plastic piece you see there is now called a U.2 interface. So there are some SSDs, in particular, there's one Intel SSD out now that uses that interface. It's a PCI Express-based interface that allows you to get PCIe, NVMe, SSDs attached to your system in an alternate way, right?
So there's an attachment from the motherboard, but this is a daughter board that you could use if your SSD needed that connector.
So some boards today, and I would expect more in the future, will actually have that plastic connector on the motherboard itself, the U.2 connector. But Asus included this as an adapter, right? Because this board didn't have it, but it does have M.2 support on it. So this way you can, if you have an M.2 based SSD, you can install it on that, or you can use that adapter to install a U.2.
And one of the reasons we chose this motherboard and the chip is for M.2, right? M.2 is... These are faster SSDs. These are better SSDs.
So M.2 is a form factor that was available in SATA first, and now it's M.2 PCIe. It's the PCIe version.
You want to be on the PCI Express bus, absolutely.
That's where you get, your 10, 20 gigabit per second data speeds.
Wow. How many M.2 SSDs could I get in here?
Well, technically,
they're small, right? They're not as big as hard drives. They're just little chip daughter boards, right? Yeah.
Right. So you're limited by the PCI Express bandwidth and lanes that you have on the board. So you could hook one up to the M.2 slot on the motherboard itself, and then you could hook one up through that daughter card, or the adapter card, rather.
But you want to be careful about lanes because you have a limited number, and your GPU wants a lane, too, on the PCI Express.
GPU is going to use a significant portion of it, and then, you're going to use bandwidth from the chipset itself, basically for storage.
Okay.
But there's enough bandwidth there, I think, for essentially any user in terms of storage compatibility or storage performance that you'll be interested in.
And these are big drives now. I mean, that's one of the great things about SSDs. The cost per gigabyte's gone down. They're not still as low as spinning drives, of course, but they're affordable, and you can get a few terabytes in here.
Yeah, you can. You can get that. I think you can get the Samsung 950 Pro. I think it goes up to 512 gigs now, and they're coming out with a 1 terabyte version, supposedly this quarter.
Yeah.
They're limited by physical size, right? So the M.2 card it's like like a sizable stick of gum, right? So they're limited by how many dies they can actually put on that. So they're waiting for the next step of vertical NAND to kind of get that capacity down.
They're stacking the NAND. Like this. Let's get the motherboard out here.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, they have a lot of extra features in there.
This is heavy. This is the heaviest motherboard I've ever felt, and you'll see why in a moment when we get it out of here, because it looks like it's got some heavy metal on here.
It does. They do a good job with keeping everything cool. You'll notice there are no active fans on it, though. It's all passively cooled.
Interesting.
Which will help keep noise down in the system. The chipset is low power enough that it can withstand without using, as long as you have a big enough heatsink. Then you don't need it.
Yeah, that's what the weight is these heatsinks. Now, people, I'm surprised you didn't yell at me, because I'm not grounded. But we are in a fairly humid environment. It's rainy outside, and I have not ever had a problem with static here.
I will agree. I've never had that issue. Knock on wood.
If you're in a dry area, you should get a grounding strap, and don't ground it to the electrical socket. Put it on a cold water.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Give us a processor socket.
Yep.
That you're looking at there. Yep. That's where the Skylake Core i7-6700K will go. A lot of power regulation hardware around the sides surrounding that. Also,
we have
they've
4
separated
PCI slots, or these RAM slots. These are the 4 slots, so there's 4 of those. Yep.
4 of those.
Here's the PCI.
Yep, you've got your PCI Express slots there. The first 2 long ones are for GPUs, 1 or 2 if you want to go that way. The bottom one will support 3-way Crossfire, but not 3-way SLI currently.
Say bottom, so I'm going to turn it around. You mean these little ones?
No, I mean the longer one on the bottom.
Bottom there. I don't even know where the bottom is, but okay. I'll accept your definition of bottom.
Right there by your thumb, you've got power buttons, reset buttons, memory buttons. Clear CMOS buttons.
That's kind of nice. These are actual buttons, not just pins.
Right.
That would connect to something on the case. So you could actually open up the case and do the reset and power directly.
Yeah, a lot of people will do that. Even if if you have an open test bed, obviously that's useful. But even if you're getting things set up before you close the door on the door on the case, you've got access to that.
Love that.
You don't have to get the screwdriver out and kind of short the pins necessary to turn it on, which is something I did for the first 10 years of doing this type of stuff.
Looks like there's also, well, let's talk about this and then we'll get on some other stuff. Sure. So look at the connectivity on the back. We've got HDMI. We've got over here, this is the dual link, right?
Yep, you've got HDMI, DisplayPort, and optical audio up there. Now, what's interesting about the video display outputs is we won't use them ever because we're using discrete graphics.
Right.
Right. So
this is for the motherboard graphics, obviously.
Right. So the GPU technology that exists on the processor would run through those outputs. Technically, you can enable both, since you can get 4 displays connected to a GTX card and 4 or 6 displays connected to a Radeon card today. It's kind of how many monitors do you need? Really?
I see these coax connectors. I presume one of them, in any way, is for the Wi-Fi antenna.
All 3 of them.
All 3 of them.
All 3, because you've got dual band Wi-Fi and Bluetooth to go through that. You've got.
There's an external Bluetooth antenna.
It's part of the same antenna.
That's a really great idea. I mean, getting it out of the case is always a good idea, I think. Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. You've got a lot of USB connections on there. 2 gigabit Ethernet connections. What's interesting is if you look at those USB ports, notice that you've got like 3 teal color, 1 dark blue, 1 black.
Now the blue is USB 3, right?
The dark blue is USB 3.
And that's USB 2, 1. And then what's the teal?
The teal is USB 3.1.
Ooh, baby. In fact, I see a Type-C connector. Look at that.
So you've got 6 USB 3.1 connections, 5 Type A and 1 Type C. The Type C is that new reversible style there. So a lot of bandwidth on there for connectivity. There's not any USB 3.1.
It's not all the same channel. How many USB channels are there on here?
There's 3 controllers.
3 controllers.
2 to each controller. Yeah.
That's nice. So you can separate them, which is always a handy thing to do. What is this part over here? Is that a heat sink?
Yep, that's the heatsink that's covering the Z170 chipset.
So I should take this plastic off of it?
Yeah. Otherwise, it will melt to it eventually.
Let's not.
You don't want to do that.
That's just an ad. It's kind of hard to get off. I'll get that off later. It looks like there's a heat pump here too. I see a.
Yep, you've got so that basically connects all 3 of the heat sinks for the power regulation around it. It's a heat pipe that kind of goes around and basically makes sure that the load is evenly distributed across that.
Nice. Very nice. And these aluminum fins here and here.
Yep.
Okay. Should I put you want to put the chip in? Is that crazy to do that now?
You can do that now.
I can?
Well, here's the secret, right? So open up, leave the plastic piece on there.
Okay, it says important. Install processor first, then remove and keep the cover. I've never heard of such a thing.
Well, I think it's a result of, so underneath that cover are all the pins, right? Remember, the pins aren't on the CPU anymore, they're on the motherboard.
Right, you don't want to bend those suckers.
I think you had people issues with, them trying to take the cover off and then fat fingering it and smashing down a bunch of pins or whatever.
Right. There they are. Look at them.
Yeah.
A lot of pins.
And we do that here. Like, it's happened to us at the office many times. And you got to get the not the binoculars. You got to get the magnifying glasses out. You got to get the little tiny needle nose things and try to straighten them out. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
You can break a pin so easily. And then, of course, the whole motherboard's gone. You have to get a new one. That's $300 down the tubes.
So
that's interesting. So the processors no longer have pins.
Nope.
That's a big change.
AMD's processors still have pins. Intel's do not.
Why did they do that?
Most people, if you're if you take the kind of the view on it that I think motherboard vendors do, it's because they wanted to pass the RMAs of bent pins from themselves to the motherboard
to the
vendors.
Mobo, nice.
But like, you know what? Now it's not really our issue. You can't really hurt the processor.
Look at that. So these are, but it feels like you got to aim really carefully to get it right on the right connector. How many connectors are there on here? You know?
Pins?
Yeah.
I mean, there's 1,151. That's what the LGA socket kind of indicates.
What the what?
Yeah. There's
Holy camole. So how is it keyed? I don't know. Let's see.
So if you look, actually just like that, like you had it, actually. But there's like, if you look at the top of, so set it, there's like keys at the top. You'll see there's kind of like divots.
Yeah.
There you go.
You can't really.
So it sits, once it's in there correctly, it doesn't wiggle in.
You can't do it wrong because of these little keys on the edge there.
Right. And then you just go ahead and put the door down on it. And as you close the arm. Underneath the thing, the plastic piece will just pop off.
This is making me so nervous. Okay, really? The plastic piece is going to pop off?
Yeah, probably.
Probably? It feels like I'm pushing hard.
Yeah, you got to use a lot of force.
Really?
As long as the front end of it is underneath the screw there.
It is. Yeah, see, it's going down there. That's. Will I wait a minute, let me show you. Will I tighten that screw?
No. It's just there as a stud for retention.
It's just a stud like you. Okay. Let's I feel like I'm going to bend the thing. Can I just pry it off?
You can take the black plastic piece off if you want. Yeah.
I feel like something's gonna. Oh yeah, it did. It did it. It popped right off.
Yeah. Okay, it feels like you're gonna break it.
It does. I mean, so that's a good experience right there. It felt like I was gonna break it, but I didn't. There it is. And we'll save this. They say save it in case you ever want to take the chip out.
Yeah, if you take the chip out, you want to save the motherboard. You put that black plastic piece on, so you can make sure the pins.
I'll put that in the very important filing cabinet I have for loose pieces I will never use.
Right. Yeah. I was just helping my nephew build a computer this weekend, and we basically the rule of thumb is any piece you want to keep, put back in the motherboard box. That's the one box you keep. That's kind
keep
of
in the motherboard box. That's it right there.
Yeah.
So now
put all of your manuals and stuff in there.
Eventually, we're going to put thermal paste on. You're going to help me do that. We won't do that today, but we'll put thermal paste on there. And do we still do that and put a cooling fan or something on there?
I'm trying to remember. I think the cooler we used might have pre-applied.
I think we have okay, but we have an active. Well, we'll find out.
Yeah. I think the one we have has a pre-applied thermal interface.
I don't have to go out and buy my Arctic
A lot of people
Silver.
still remove them and put on their own, but I don't think it's really necessary.
Well, there
if you're
you
buying
go.
A high-performance cooler, they're going to use high-performance thermal interface.
And CR2032 dime battery for the BIOS backup. Still use those. I have a bunch of them in my drawer.
Yep.
But I presume this is going to be fine. I don't have to move a piece of paper behind it or anything like that, do I?
Nope. And in reality, I think one of those buttons down at the bottom, there's the red one that says clear CMOS.
Oh, you don't have to jumper that anymore? You just press a button?
Yep.
Oh, man.
Times have changed, Leo.
And times have changed. And then this is the BIOS fullback. What is that?
flashback is what that stands for.
What is that?
So it's actually a really cool feature. If you corrupt the BIOS in some way, you plug in a USB drive with a new BIOS file on it, and you push that button, and even without a processor installed or whatever, it will update the BIOS accordingly. It's actually really useful. Probably not for this particular motherboard, but if motherboards existed, and a new processor came out that it didn't have support for yet, but you bought that processor, the idea you used to have to you'd have to buy or borrow a processor from somebody in order to just update the BIOS in order to support your processor. Now you don't have to use a CPU. You don't have to have a CPU or memory installed or anything. You just have to have power attached to the board, and it will update the BIOS that way. It's pretty neat.
Where's the turbo button?
The turbo button is in software.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
It exists. It exists.
And I noticed this is actually a nice touch, too. Here's a bunch of SATA connectors, and there's one that says OS drive. There's a little label that says OS drive, so you know that that's the first SATA connector. You don't have to try to read the little plastic printing on that.
Real nice, actually.
That is nice. And what are these connectors for?
So that's a SATA Express port. Notice that it is actually
external.
It's two SATA ports and another connection next to it.
Yeah.
Right. And so SATA Express is kind of I'll call it a defunct standard for storage that was supposed to be really neat because it was 10 gigabits per second up to, 500 and something megabytes per second. But nobody ever really utilized it. But those two SATA ports that are on there, you can still use as normal
ports. So we actually have 6 SATA ports on here. That's nice.
Yep.
I am loving this motherboard, but that always is my favorite part of a new computer build. This is
It's got the most gadgets and gizmos on it for sure.
Sure does. Ryan Shrout, thank you. Our guide as we build the ultimate VR gaming rig for our Oculus Rift headset, which is going to be coming in, I don't know when, a few months.
I don't know when
I'm hoping. I'm hoping we'll have a PC. Are you building one like this for your Oculus?
Yeah, we're actually going to do some build guides at different price points. Try to do one. The biggest problem, the goal we had was to build one for like $900 or close to $900 to. That was Oculus's first thing.
Right.
Their first claim was, for $1,500 you'll be able to get set up. And now we know the Oculus is $600. Could we actually build a PC for $900 that would get the job done? And it's very difficult to do. You're at the minimum specs for sure.
And I presume this is an anti-static bag. It doesn't look like one, but I'm going to put it back in the the anti-static bag and seal it up until next time. Bye, Ryan. And now we go back to the screensavers already in progress.
Oh man, I can't help drooling over that. A $300 motherboard that costs more than a lot of computers. That's just the motherboard. So we've done CPU and motherboard, still to do the case. Next week we do the GPUs. And by the way, that was a much longer conversation because I couldn't stop drooling over that motherboard. So we have the full unedited, almost 30-minute conversation about the motherboard if you want to see more on our YouTube channel. No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
Do you remember doing this
the
on the
ultimate
screen?
gaming
It was so
machine,
much
of
fun.
course. Yeah.
We
And
did
then we
6
gave it
of
away.
Yeah, we did. We did. Did we?
I think we did.
We gave it away on Twit when we built one. The last time we did this was on Twit when we first started in the cottage. Colleen built one. We did give that one away. We're not giving this one away.
Aw.
Well, we have to have it. We're building it because we need it for the Oculus Rift.
Build another one. Give this one away. Come on.
It's $5,000 plus. It's not cheap. And we have a whole new studio to pay for. I mean, maybe. You want to win one? All right, maybe we'll give one away. I'll think about it. It's a lot easier to give them away when you're not writing the check.
Exactly. Yes.
When
that
it's
is true.
Paul Allen paying for it, then I agree.
Right.
Let's give it away. What the
That's
hell?
True. Yeah. Just get me another iPad. We'll be fine.
We're going to have final thoughts and questions, too, with Megan in just a second. But first, let's talk about food. We're almost done with work. You're going to go home. The boys are waiting there. Annabella, starving, drooling. You know what the best news would be? Don't have to go shopping. On your porch right now is a refrigerated box with 3 Blue Apron meals right in there. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yes. Nutritious, delicious.
Easy to cook,
Yes,
fun to cook.
Easy.
Blue Apron is named after the aprons that the apprentices at the famous Cordon Bleu cooking school in Paris where. And that's because in a way this is as much about learning to cook as anything else. You get the Blue Apron box, everything's fresh, exactly the right number, proportion of ingredients for exactly the meal. You get that beautiful recipe card with pictures and all the explanations. There's even videos on the Blue Apron website, so if you don't know how to do a particular technique, they can show you. You'll use ingredients you may never have heard of before. You know, we went to a restaurant, farro was on the menu. I said, oh yeah, I know that. I know farro, had it in my Blue Apron. Watermelon radishes. We discovered a new bok choy from Blue Apron. I just love the food. And you see, it's very easy to go to the Blue Apron site, pick your meals, pick when you want them, arrange it around your schedule. Each meal, it's about $10 per person. So you get the choice of for couples. There's dinner for two. That's the box we get. Dinner for two for 3 different meals. $10 per person. Or you can get the family plan. Do you get the family plan?
Yeah, we get the family plan. I like it.
More kid-friendly. You don't get the, garam masala shrimp. Actually, your kids would probably like that, knowing your kids are pretty sophisticated. Baked empanadas del picadillo. That looks so good. Oh, man. You can make your own empanadas. How about Trinidadian chicken curry with coconut grits and collard greens? We have a friend from Trinidad and Tobago. We'll invite her over and see if they're authentic. I bet they are. Or acorn squash risotto with crispy sage and radicchio salad. Imagine making that in your own kitchen. Perfect for date night. You will impress the person in your life. Perfect for just anytime you want to cook a great meal without shopping and learn a new skill. You never get the same menu twice, so you can always learn something new. Although once you cook it, you really have the confidence to do it yourself. So here's the deal. We got you 2 meals free. Pretty good deal. Go to blueapron.com/twit. You'll be signing up for your choice, 2-person plan or family plan. Catfish Meunier, I love that. I don't even know what that other stuff is. With Ras El Hanout lentils, never heard of them, and collard greens. See, a technique for cooking great collard greens, that's worth its weight in gold. That's wonderful. Look at that catfish. Can you tell my mouth's watering? Blueapron.com/twit. Your first 2 meals are free. Blueapron.com/twit. I think you're going to love it. I would talk to you right now, but I've got this bee on me, and it's distracting me. And
Are you sure you don't want to buy some smart pants?
No, I would. Oh, I don't want to say anything because the bee. So this is so cute. Roger apparently is a fan, and he and his wife is a fan. Jennifer knew Roger was coming up, and she made me. She knit for me this little bee. So I'm gonna put that. I'm sorry, I can't talk to you right now. I've got a bee on my shoulder. From now on. Thank you, Jolly Roger. Thank you, Jennifer. Are you ready for the mailbag? Mailbag time. Roll. Oh, wait a minute. We've devised a special Scotta mailbag. Wow, that's going to keep people away.
Is that what people from reading our mail?
Apparently, we've had some sort of security breach.
Maybe that's what Tim Cook needs to build.
Look. Kellogg's Apple Hacks. Thank you. I need a. Well, that's the next thing they should do on Know How. Father Robert, they're always doing the LED goggles. Could they make me a button that I hit it and it's a rim shot, and I'll just carry it around with me at all times? Which would you like, left or right? She took them both.
Here,
all right.
You take that one.
You answer all the questions.
No.
Go ahead. You start.
All right. So this one came to me from Glenn in Atlanta, Georgia. He asks, I'm looking for 2 apps. 2 apps. I wanted to see if you or Leo had seen anything. One, an app that will put the date and or time and possibly location on the picture. So if you have the picture printed, it will show the date and time like in the olden days.
An app that will put the date and the time. Okay, so, and then there's more.
And location-based reminders. I use stock reminders apps on the iPhone, but I forget to check them. Is there a reminder app that will notify you based on your location?
Yeah, the iPhone app.
I know, yeah, it's hard to find though.
But so you have to say, remind me when I get to Petaluma Market to pick up milk.
Yeah, you can say that, or you can actually go through the reminder app too. There's that little
I
button.
Location.
Yeah, when you find the, I don't know if you can show my reminders. Can you show let's see.
So Megan's the host of iOS Today.
I am.
Another case for your iPad
Yes, we can talk about this one on iOS Today tomorrow. But it's yes, it is. And it has the Apple Pencil holder.
Oh, we need that. It's got a loop. So you were going to show us
get distracted.
The reminder app.
Okay. So yeah, it is hard to find. And actually, you know what? It's not on the iPad.
Will the default reminder app do everything? It's not on the iPad?
No, because it just says, because that might be what, but it is on my iPhone.
Oh, so
this
he
is
was
only
asking,
remind me on
he was
my
asking
day.
for the iPad.
No, I don't think he, well, he just asked apps, but if you want to show my phone.
Yeah, we could do that.
So here's a reminder. Where do you want to see it?
Show Alex here.
These are some story ideas I have, and then why doesn't it?
Press the I button.
Where's the I? Oh, there's the I button.
Yeah.
There we go. Remind me of the location.
I use that all the time. And I like remind me when I get home to call my mom, things like that. So location-based reminders, I think they're fantastic.
Google Keep also does it.
Yes. And actually that's both iPhone, Android, and even on your desktop.
And
so
on your
that's,
iPad.
Yeah, I'm a big
Keep.
fan of that, Google Keep. They just released an iOS version of it. That's what Lisa and I use. And you can also share it. So we use it for a shared shopping list. So we can both work on the shopping list, then whoever gets to the store will have the shopping list with both of our wants and needs on it. And it includes, by the way, Apple Jacks. Love that.
So he asked about pictures too, and I found a couple apps, and Jerry also found some apps. Timestamp for iPhone. Let's see, I took a picture of you on this.
This is an app. What did he want?
Timestamp. He wanted to stamp a time on the picture. So
I see.
Here's this was just a few minutes ago. You were watching yourself.
Oh, look,
on
it's
TV.
got time and date.
This timestamp.
What is this guy, an insurance investigator?
It also does these crazy videos that. Oh no!
Whoa, that was crazy.
And I forgot to turn off my camera, and I put the iPhone. Sorry, this is the one I wanted to show you.
Yeah. What's going on? Okay, you had your thumb over the lens.
Maybe I did. There
Okay,
we go. There we go.
What the
I don't know why
what?
it does that, but it also does that. So, yeah, timestamp.
Timestamp. It does a timestamp and distortion.
Right, and if you forget to turn it off, you take a video of your leg and you show it on a podcast.
It's your leg. I've seen it before. Thank you, Glenn from Atlanta. Now we have another letter. Hi, Screensavers, writes Jim in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I bought a refurbished LG Blu-ray writer. Wow. Now I'm trying to find an app to rip my Blu-ray movies from my home server. Any suggestions? So he says he would now play he has a player, basically, obviously. Writing Blu-rays, people stop, it was $20 for a blank, I don't know if they're cheaper now, but it used to be $20 for a blank Blu-ray writable. It's like, who's going to do that?
Yeah.
The movie doesn't cost that much. So, but he says he wants to take commercial Blu-rays and rip them. Now, of course, the drawback, the difficulty there is these are copy protected, as are DVDs. DVDs were cracked very early on, but the motion picture industry has been pretty careful about, going after people who will let you crack Blu-ray DVDs. In fact, the one I use comes from, oddly enough, Trinidad and Tobago. They're offshore, so they haven't been pursued by the motion picture industry. It's from, is it Sly Fox? I think it's slyfox.com. But it's commercial. So we have an article from Jason Snell that he posted on his 6 colors. He's going to be here next week on how he does it. He has some suggestions. He suggests make MKV and Handbrake. I've always loved Handbrake.
Yeah.
We've talked about that before. But this works with Blu-rays and with DVDs. So that's another solution. And then finally, Mac Observer had an article, how to directly rip and convert Blu-rays with Handbrake. I did not know you could do Blu-rays with Handbrake, but apparently you can. The key is decoding it. Handbrake's free from handbrake.fr for France. And everybody should have a copy of that. It's a very handy, what we call a transcoder. I can't hear you because I have a bee in my pocket. Not listening. That is the cutest. That is
It's really cute.
Cute little bee. Hey, thank you so much for being here. That was fun.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
I think we learned a few things.
Yeah. Well, we will talk probably some more about iPhone encryption
That would
tomorrow
be
on iOS Today.
Day after
Except
tomorrow.
for day after tomorrow.
Yeah. Mondays, every Monday, iOS Today. We dispute when it's supposed to be on. She says it's supposed to start at 1. I say I don't know how it could possibly start at 1. It's got to start at 1:30.
Let's say 1:30 then. 1:30.
1:30 Pacific.
It starts when we're ready.
When we're ready. 4:30 Eastern Time, 21:30. But the good news is this show, all of our shows, they may not start on time, but you can always download them and watch them at your convenience. In the case of the new Screensavers, it's twit.tv/NSS. You can, a couple hours after we finish the show, you should be able to get it. We do record every Saturday afternoon, about 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, 2300 UTC, and it's fun if you could stop by. Also, if you want to be in the studio audience, email tickets at twit.tv. We always love having people stop by and visit us in the studio audience. Megan, I'll see you on Monday.
Yes.
For iOS Today, and of course Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific for Tech News Today with Jason Howell. Our regular daily dose of tech news, which is really, by the way, stellar. I'm really enjoying it. I'm loving the people you get on. I'm loving the take on the news. And we decided it would be better to do it in the afternoon because all the news has happened. For instance, the Apple thing you would have missed if you we're doing it in the morning. So I think that's good. You could, and then this way it comes out in time. You get it for your morning commute as well.
Yep.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time on the new Screensavers. Bye-bye.